Are you spiraling through life or just running in circles?
What is in a form? In the last episode, I proposed an analogy of how the same energetic order of operations can be applied to the inner workings of a plasma TV as well as the reproductive processes of the human species. Can it get any wilder, folks? Yes, it very much can, and indeed it does. Out of all we have discussed thus far, I have yet to acknowledge the triangulation of energy, which is apparent at all levels of existence. Vibrations act in an up and down motion, creating a space in between each step at the bottom and a crest in between each step at the top. At an atomic level, there is a trinity among protons, neutrons, and electrons. At a body level, there is a trinity among atoms, cells, and organs. We experience life mentally, physically, and emotionally, and humans exhibit a trinity among the mind, body, and spirit. As we start to peel back and analyze these many aspects of our life experience, we can easily identify common themes and patterns. From one, there comes three. Energetic waves demonstrate this by consisting of two sides and one space at each interval. Christianity personifies this meaning with the phrase, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Water can exist in three forms, gas, liquid, and solid. An egg is comprised of a yolk, its whites, and a shell. There are three means of transportation, land, air, and water. There are three branches of government. The Wiccan threefold rule proclaims that the energy you put out into the world will be returned to you times three. The sun, the moon, and the earth are also a trinity. Many incantations and invocations are repeated 3 times, and back in the times of the Scottish witch trials, any chants repeated in threes were considered proof of witchcraft. So many expressions of this very pronounced presence can be observed as far back as history can reach. We exist on the third planet from the sun, in a three-dimensional world consisting of land, air, and water, which allow us to move freely within the space it provides. Do you think all of this is coincidence? Esoterically, I know there is no such thing. Atoms demonstrate discernment, meaning that all energy is intelligent. As described in the Hermetic principles, the all is mind, the universe is mental. Atoms combine to produce forms, and then the forms connect or combine to become a greater unit, or a kingdom. This process can be described as involution and evolution through the law of attraction and repulsion. An idea, through thought, is brought into manifestation, and then it continues to gain experience and more substance until it can be liberated from its form. Imagine the invention of a hammer. Someone, somewhere, got inspired with the idea of a hard object that could be used for hitting things. Through thought, they develop the tool with wood and stone and begin using it. The hammer is effective, fulfills a purpose, and greatly aids its creator as a tool to carry out other energetic expressions of interest. Thousands of swings get taken with that hammer until one day the head breaks off, rendering it no longer a hammer, but instead it is now separated as a stone and a stick. After the atoms of the hammer have exhausted or emitted all energy available to it at its highest potential, it will embark on a degradation process, eventually freeing itself from being a hammer. Or, in other words, energy gets involved, evolves, and then resolves. The same can be said about human life. We incarnate into a vessel and then grow, learn, adapt, and change throughout our experience of life. Then, when our purpose is fulfilled, we become freed of the human form in the process of death. What comes next is anyone's best guess, but it is only logical based off of what we do know about energy and the cycles of nature to assume that there is something else beyond all that we are familiar with in the physical world. Involution and evolution are comparable to imprisonment in an esoteric sense, because of the limits it imposes upon our consciousness. As an infant, we are extremely limited and dependent upon care from others in order to grow and adapt and function effectively in the vessel our soul is involved with. By the time we reach adulthood, we enter a point of evolution. We actively contribute to a collective through our work, and we expand our consciousness through wisdom gained from experiences. This is referred to as a period of utilization, but all the while our souls become more imprisoned by an even higher imposition of matter into our minds. School, work, transportation, errands, entertainment. So many things preoccupy our thoughts at all times, muddying the waters of our mind and making it difficult to meditate and reconcile that which causes indifference within our spirits, much less forge a connection to higher vibrations and allow it to flow freely through our own essence. Alice Bailey describes this as the process of becoming, which makes being possible. The more we think and do, the more self-awareness we develop, which leads us from a space of acknowledgement into a space of acceptance. We tend to come to terms with that which troubles us, making peace of all our pieces. This process is called crystallization. Crystals are prisms that analyze and reflect light, and we, as discussed in earlier episodes, are light beings. To visualize this, imagine a crystal shape that has many faces, and suppose each face represents a life lesson. If you do not learn the lesson, the face gets filled up and hardens, no longer allowing light to pass through it. If you learn the lesson, the face remains clear, amplifying light and increasing its shine as energy passes through it. Energy practitioners carry out this sort of clearing operation through many mediums, but the main purpose of any practice is to remove any energetic blockages from the chakras. Eventually, when our energy can no longer effectively express itself, or crystallization is complete, a stage of disintegration ensues, beginning with decay and reaching completion and death. These 5 stages outline the life of any entity or embodied idea, which can be simplified as energy seeking expression through matter: limitation, adaptation, utilization, crystallization, and disintegration. This cycle can be observed in connection with all forms, not only in individuals, but also among groups of people, and I like to describe it as running suicide drills on a basketball court. In this image, I've used the colors of the rainbow to explain how we travel through each stage of this experience. Let's assume an average lifespan to be 90 years old, and let us also indulge a bit in idealism to consider an individual that is completely healthy for the purpose of this example. We are all born into this world in a red state of limitations. As we travel to the first free throw line, we are learning how to roll, crawl, walk, talk, feed ourselves, and manage our own waste duties. Let's assume that to be our initial 5 years of life. Then, during the next 5 years of life, we travel back to the baseline, learning all the other basics to our human experience, like how to read, write, dance, or play sports, and how to better function within our environments. By the age of 10, most of us are ready to level up, incorporating all we have learned and adapting to a new way of being. However, this comes with its own new set of limitations. For example, many kids know how to ride a bike by the age of 10, but they would be limited by their parents as to how far they can go on it. From 10 to 20 years old, we are going from the baseline of the orange oval to half court, traveling through the stage of adaptability. This is where we really start to put into practice what we have learned throughout our adolescence. We complete our basic education, most acquire their first employment position, and some even have their first child during the later phase of this stage. From 20 to 30 years old, we are going from half court back to the baseline of the orange oval, again learning our new limits and adapting as needed. As an adult, new responsibilities emerge. Many have schedules to adhere to, and they must handle their own affairs independently. By the time we reach 30, we are back at the baseline again. Here, again from an idealistic perspective, most of us have determined our skills, talents, and interests. We have established ourselves by some sort of work or academic accomplishments, and we are no longer practicing how to participate in our own lives. At this point, we are entering the stage of utilization and using our faculties to function as we see fit, fully and actively performing. Again, this comes with an entire new level of limits and adaptations. Imagine starting a business. You are fully capable of doing it, but you are limited by obligations of obtaining licenses, registrations, and adhering to an entire new realm of laws, rules, and regulations. All these things will require you to adapt to circumstances and conditions in order to achieve your goals. As we reach the opposite free throw line, we are about 50 years old, and it's at this so-called midlife space that many develop a greater consideration for what they will leave behind when they exit this life. Once we realize the power we hold to make an everlasting impression, it seems silly to wonder how one will be remembered, because we are aware of what we do while we are doing it. Unfortunately, many know not what they do while doing what they know. Socrates said, "The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing," because he found that the more we learn, the more we realize how blind we previously were. This dynamic exists because of the conflict between vital truths and varied theologies. What we know and what we are told are completely separate subjects. What if what we think we know, we don't, because what we know wouldn't make us think? As we travel from the opposite end free throw line back to the baseline, suppose we are 50 to 70 years old. This space is where we begin to get our affairs in order. Perhaps we pay off debts, purchase life insurance, and prepare for retirement. By the time we reach the baseline again, our consciousness has completed many cycles in life. By now, a picture of our life has been painted, a timeline of photographs exposed, an image of identity impressed upon the world as to who we are. By now, our personalities and characteristics are set in stone, so to speak, and as we become fully immersed into the stage of crystallization, we simultaneously begin to experience all of the other stages of life in reverse order at a much more rapid speed. This is the process of disintegration, and it is a natural part of aging. First, we begin to experience a decline in our utilities. Our eyesight might start to diminish, our strength weakens, our mobility decreases, and we just can't utilize our bodies the same way anymore. They are no longer operating at their highest potential. Again, this thrusts us into a forced stage of adaptability, imposing a heap of new limitations on our lives. Eventually, we begin to lose use of certain faculties altogether. For example, many lose the ability to drive. Some develop trouble walking or become hard of hearing. And again, we are thrust right back into another cycle of adapting to reformed limitations. When we are no longer able to adapt to our circumstances and conditions, our vessel enters the final stage of limitation, where it is no longer viable to sustain the force of life, and we die. Forms of thought or ideologies, forms of government, and forms of religion all work within this structured framework of cyclical stages that is in a constant state of flux and fluidity. While new is developing, old is disintegrating. While old is deconstructing, new is being constructed. And this consistent transitional frequency foreshadows all forms, at all levels, on all planes. Even the existentialist or the nihilist can observe these distinct stages of energy among all things. If this is all so, and it is, we can't help but wonder, what is the ultimate purpose or goal to this infinite balancing act of energy in building forms, combining forms, and then breaking those forms to build some other forms over and over and over again? Is there a reason to the rhythm of our reality? The simplest answer would be the expansion of consciousness. Remember, All is energy, and all energy is intelligent, demonstrating discernment in action. It does not function without both a wisdom of knowing and a wonder of the unknown. To exist is to explore and expand, essentially. Let's look at how this expansion has progressed thus far in nature. Atoms initially utilize intelligence and psyche to establish their own forms. Then, they combine with other forms to develop minerals, gaining a quality of elasticity during the transformation. Many mineral forms combine to develop plants, which now possess all the qualities of minerals and atoms, but have also gained an increased quality of sensation as the energy transformed. Plants demonstrate a heightened sense of emotion or feeling in response to their environments than that of minerals or a singular atom. Animals are the next form up in the kingdom hierarchy, and they have all the qualities of the other lower kingdoms, but they demonstrate an increased quality of instinct. At the macro level of our world, we have the human kingdom, which again possesses all the qualities of the lower kingdoms, but to a much farther degree. And humans demonstrate the development of yet another advanced quality, an intelligent will. Humans are both conscious and self-conscious. We have the capacity to manifest, and we can make decisions for ourselves. Just as we attribute God to be 3 in 1 or 1 in 3, we are each one entity that experiences life in 3 ways: mentally, physically, and emotionally. We are one person with 3 aspects to our personalities: private, personal, and public. We are of one kingdom that is comprised of 3 other kingdoms in several ways. How does our world happen? Humans, animals, and plants perform and evolve in nature. As individuals, we develop even bigger forms by combining ourselves into groups. We have our close circles, we have our communities, and we have our countries. Expanding even more, these groups can combine to form clubs, organizations, and institutions. These entities combine to set standards of our realm of consciousness, our core values, code of ethics, and our moral compass. The homework from this episode is to review from where we began in part 1 up to where we are now. What qualities have you gained so far in this discussion? Are you seeing anything differently? This is Coincidental Chaos. I am a light, and thus I stand.